Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate that. Before we start getting in the presentation, I want to level set for everyone. Some of it is my background, but wanted to make sure you get the most out of this webinar. This is really about education, and some of it are my viewpoints. Just a little background. I've been doing quality assurance for over 25 years in the industry. So I've developed products. I was one of the early people in the, I'm going to date myself, back in the mid-90s when we looked at the behind-the-scenes needs of testing, integration testing. And that's become web services, that's become links with data, that's become the integration of webMethods, TIBCO, all the different MQ, all the different pieces. And what's really important there is you see all that integration and technology going on, plus then you add in platforms like AWS, Azure, and the pressure of the businesses getting things out the door. It really changes the focus and need around what needs to be done. I really want to stress that I'm going to do a little bit of education early on about waterfall versus Agile, but then jump into how things have changed and how Agile has affected it. And frankly, I want the net of that is, how does it affect you as a person, right? From your career pathing to what are the skills you need to do. And I'm going to give you an answer that you're going to hear probably through this webinar is, there really aren't QA managers anymore. You can certainly see them out there in different industries, but really that is, management goes along with the skills and the delivery of continuous Agile uses and such. So when you hear a word like QA manager, understand that's a declining trend. And I certainly talk offline about that. I don't want to insult anybody, but really when you hear that, you hear about managing a people, and there's more than that. And I want to make sure that we understand that the industry has changed from that kind of management structure to more of a best practice of delivery and throughput to making sure we meet the needs of the end users or business. All right, thank you very much. I want to start by with this slide and understanding just by definition, we certainly, maybe most of you on the call know the waterfall methodology, and the reason is it looks like a waterfall. There's steps, right? Requirements to design, to development, to testing, to deployment and maintenance. And these are very, very long cycles. People can say they can do waterfall in 2-month segments or 3 months, but that is really a tough stretch, and they can be anywhere from 6 to 9 months. And the bottom line is there's so much innovation going on, so much integration, and so much pressure in the business. I dare say that waterfall is really tough to do in most industries. And there are exceptions. We'll talk about those. But really, waterfall is about those steps to the deployments, in this case, steps 1 through 6. And just kind of as a background, right, you were taught that developers completed the code, did the coding, testers test, and I'll frankly, sometimes it was developers that weren't great coders ended up being testers because that's the way it was. Well, operations built the services, support the release. They all complained about each other, no one worked together, and software releases could take months. That's the way it was. And some environments were better, some were worse, but it definitely wasn't collaborative. With Agile methodology, I'm basically showing you a standard type of approach. And once again, this is education, but you'll see a much more different approach. It starts with user stories and the semblance of a collaborative team. So let's talk about the team makeup that it's changed. It used to be a developer, a tester, and it was like when the developer was done, the tester would start testing, but it's much more team-based and collaborative. So in a typical Agile team, you are going to have an architect, you're going to have developers, you're going to have QA engineers. Notice I said the word QA engineers, not testers. You're going to have product owners. You're going to have analysts that also do QA engineer work. So what you're seeing is, and you're going to have developers doing QA testing and QA engineers doing some level of development or configuration. What the message I'm trying to make here is that you have a team that is not only collaborative, but I'm going to use the word fungible or multi-skilled. Lots of different skills, so it's not a specific role, and it's teamwork. So when the user stories come in, they used to be called requirements. You're all working together. You're prioritizing. You're doing your sprint planning. You have the daily build, test, deploy. We'll talk about automation in a minute, but then you're having your daily stand-up meetings. That's called a daily scrum. You're doing a product implement. And when you're done, there's always some kind of demo and then a retrospective. I think the key thing here is it's small increments of work. It's usually 2 weeks or less, and you're producing what I call production-ready solutions. That doesn't mean they get released into production, but production-ready. Just kind of back up the changes that are going on in the environment and how Agile is affecting it. Think about the measurement, and this is an example. This is a DevOps report. This isn't my information, but it kind of shows where the world is going and changing and the requirements. And I picked a couple different pieces here, but high IT performers, multiple deployments a day. The low performers are once per week or once per month. Lead time for changes can be less than an hour for high performers to 1 week and 1 month for low performers. When there's a failure, that's called the mean time to recover. It should be less than an hour. Medium performers less than a day, and sometimes low performers 1 week. And you really get into change failure rate, where that gets into like defects, hot fixes, those kinds of things. And the high performers are 0 to 15%. And medium is 0 to 15%. Look at the low performers. Like you introduce a defect not only in less releases, but also much more often. So the point here is everybody is viewing, think of these as key performance measurements. You got to deliver quickly, effectively, and meet the needs of the business. And the bottom line is you better have high quality. That's a checkbox. And there are applications, just like you take a moment, that may not need that requirement. Not everybody works for Facebook where you're implementing every single day or multiple times a day. But there are financial institutions that require those capabilities. And I'm going to give you even healthcare, where a year ago I wouldn't say they fall in this category, but they are being more and more pressured to be able to provide business and stability and innovation to their customers. And think about all the innovation going on, all the integration needed. It's more and more. Heck, creating a healthcare card that you get now, first of all, it's now all digital. But if it isn't, the ability to quickly get that to their customer, not in 2 weeks, but within a day, has changed the way you do things. When you look at Agile and transform to that, let's just understand where you need to be. You just don't say you're Agile and you transform and change QA and how